Kant's body of work constitutes one of the most monumental and enduring contributions to Western philosophy, encompassing a vast intellectual terrain that includes metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, aesthetics, political theory, theology, and cosmology. Spanning nearly 5 decades, from his early pre-critical speculations in the 1750s to the fragmented posthumous musings of his final years, Kant's works reveal a thinker of extraordinary depth and ambition, whose ideas evolved from youthful optimism about reason's boundless reach to a mature critical framework that redefined the boundaries of human understanding, morality, and societal organization. Tracing Kant's philosophical journey, elucidating their interconnections, and highlighting their profound implications, offers an extensive reflection on a mind that reshaped how we conceive ourselves and the world. Kant's philosophical career begins in his pre-critical phase with Universal Natural History and Theory of the Heavens, a work that bursts forth with the audacity of a 31-year-old thinker captivated by Newtonian science and Enlightenment rationalism. Here, Kant proposes a revolutionary cosmological hypothesis. The solar system and broader universe emerged from a primordial nebula, a chaotic cloud of particles that, under gravity's pull, coalesced into the sun, planets, and stars. He meticulously accounts for planetary differences, inner rocky worlds like Earth versus outer gaseous giants like Jupiter, and extends his vision to the Milky Way, envisioning it as a flattened disk of stars born from a spinning nebula, with countless other island universes dotting an infinite cosmos. This nebular hypothesis, remarkably prescient of modern astronomy, is grounded in natural laws, yet Kant infuses it with teleological wonder, seeing nature's self-organizing beauty as evidence of a divine intelligence. This early blend of science and theology, unburdened by the critical limits he later imposes, showcases a Kant confident in reason's ability to unlock creation's secrets, a theme that resonates faintly in his later works despite his shift in focus. A few years later, in the only possible argument in support of a demonstration of the existence of God, Kant turns to metaphysics and rational theology, still in his pre-critical mode but already displaying the analytical sharpness that defines his legacy. At 39, he critiques the ontological argument, championed by Anselm and Descartes, which posits that God's existence follows from his perfection. Kant dismantles this, arguing that existence isn't a predicate or quality added to a concept. In other words, imagining a perfect being doesn't make it real, just as imagining 100 coins doesn't make them tangible. Instead, he offers his own proof, God as the necessary ground of all possibility. Every possible thing, such as a triangle or a tree, requires conditions, for example space and logical consistency, and the totality of possibilities demands a single, necessary being whose existence underpins them all. This argument, abstract and ambitious, reflects Kant's early trust in reason's metaphysical reach, while his critique of existence foreshadows the critique of pure reason's rejection of speculative theology. He also nods to design, the universe's order, as a hint of purpose, tying this work to his cosmological interests, though possibility remains his core claim. In a lighter vein, Observations on the Feeling of the Beautiful and Sublime offers a pre-critical detour into aesthetics and human psychology, revealing a Kant not yet bound by systematic rigor but eager to explore subjective experience. Written at 40, this essay distinguishes beauty, such as a gentle, harmonious pleasure, like a flower's delicate form, from sublimity, and an inspiring mix of fear and admiration, like a stormy sea's vastness. He ties these two temperaments, for example, the sanguine relish beauty's sociability, the melancholic savor the sublime's depth, the choleric admire its nobility, and the phlegmatic remain unmoved. Kant ventures into gender and cultural differences, such as women drawn to beauty's grace, men to sublimity's grandeur, the French elegant, the Germans profound. These views, steeped in 18th century biases, show his curiosity about taste's diversity. Morally, he hints at beauty's link to kindness and sublimities to virtue, a seed for the critique of judgment. This work, conversational and untechnical, contrasts with his later density, offering a glimpse of Kant as a public intellectual musing on human nature before his critical awakening. The pivotal moment in Kant's philosophy begins with the Critique of Pure Reason, his groundbreaking work that reshapes philosophy through what he calls a Copernican Revolution. At 57, Kant tackles the long-standing conflict between rationalism, the belief that reason alone can uncover truth, and empiricism, the view that all knowledge comes from experience. He finds flaws in both. Rationalism ventures into speculative metaphysics without proof, while empiricism, especially as seen in Hume's skepticism, casts doubt on the possibility of certain knowledge. Kant's solution is radical. He argues that the mind doesn't just receive information, it actively structures experience through built-in frameworks. Space and time are not things we learn from experience, but are a priori forms of intuition that shape how we perceive the world. Concepts like causality are also built-in tools, part of what he calls the categories of understanding. According to Kant, we can only know phenomena, things as they appear to us, not noumena, things as they are in themselves. This limits knowledge to what we can experience, but gives that knowledge a solid foundation. His critique is divided into key parts. The transcendental aesthetic shows how space and time structure perception, making mathematics possible. The transcendental analytic explains how the mind organizes sensory data using categories, enabling scientific knowledge. The transcendental dialectic reveals how reason can lead us into illusion, like the contradictions of metaphysical speculation or false proofs of God when it tries to go beyond experience. Though dense, this work revolutionizes epistemology. It places boundaries on metaphysics while affirming the mind's power to know the world within limits. The prolegomena to any future metaphysics follows, a shorter, sharper companion to the critique, written at 59 to clarify its ideas after misinterpretations. Using an analytic method, starting with known truths and deducing their conditions, Kant explains how synthetic a priori knowledge is possible. Mathematics rests on space and time, science on categories, and metaphysics must reform as a science of experience's conditions, not ultimate reality. He reaffirms transcendental idealism. Objects conform to our cognition, not vice versa, securing objectivity within phenomana's realm. This work bridges Kant's epistemology to a broader audience, cementing his critical turn's implications. In groundwork of the metaphysics of morals, Kant places ethics at the forefront, building a rational foundation for morality and rejecting the idea that moral actions should be guided by feelings, consequences, or divine commands. For him, the only thing unconditionally good is a good will, the will to act out of duty. Talents and happiness can be misused for harmful ends, but duty reflects the autonomy of reason. Central to Kant's ethics is the categorical imperative, which he formulates as, act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law, and treat humanity always as an end, never merely as a means. Lying, for instance, fails the first test because universal lying would destroy trust. Exploitation fails the second by denying human dignity. This marks a shift from judging actions by their outcomes to evaluating them based on intentions, emphasizing moral laws we create and follow through reason. This concise yet profound approach forms the foundation of Kant's ethical system, which he later expands in subsequent works. In the Critique of Practical Reason, he deepens his ethical theory by elevating practical reason, reason in action, above theoretical reason. He presents the moral law as an a priori fact of consciousness, the source of our sense of duty. While freedom cannot be proven theoretically, it becomes a fact of reason in the moral realm. When we feel I ought, we presuppose I can. Kant revisits the idea of the highest good, where virtue, acting from duty, should ultimately align with happiness, a natural human desire. To make this harmony possible, he introduces the postulates of immortality, allowing for the perfection of virtue over time, and of God, ensuring that justice is ultimately fulfilled. These postulates are not claims of knowledge but rational beliefs, necessary for moral action and consistent with human autonomy. This work, more concise than the first critique, combines moral urgency with philosophical depth, reinforcing Kant's deontological ethics in contrast to utilitarian or theological approaches. The Critique of Judgment bridges Kant's theoretical and practical philosophy by focusing on judgment, particularly in the realms of aesthetics and teleology. He defines beauty as a disinterested pleasure arising from the free play of imagination and understanding, such as the experience of a sunset, which evokes a sense of universal agreement without relying on concepts. The sublime, in contrast, involves overwhelming experiences of vastness or power, like a storm, which momentarily surpass our faculties but ultimately uplift us by revealing our moral freedom. In its teleological aspect, the work examines the apparent purposiveness of natural organisms, like a bird's wings, as a way of interpreting nature's unity, not as an objective truth but as a regulative idea that links the world of sense to the realm of freedom. More lyrical than his earlier critiques, this work seeks to unify Kant's system by showing how nature and morality are brought into harmony through reflective judgment, leaving a lasting influence on both Romanticism and the natural sciences through its poetic yet rigorous vision. Kant's practical ethics take concrete form in the Metaphysics of Morals, where he divides duties into two parts: the doctrine of right, which concerns external, enforceable laws that protect freedom, such as property rights upheld by a civil state, and the doctrine of virtue, which addresses internal, self-imposed duties to oneself, like avoiding suicide, and to others, like practicing beneficence. Though the framework can appear rigid, such as in Kant's strict support for retributive justice, it reflects his broader aim of having reason govern both legal systems and individual conscience, thus extending the principles of the groundwork into practical life. In Perpetual Peace, Kant applies these ideas to political philosophy, proposing lasting peace through republican constitutions that ensure rational governance, a federation of free states to encourage cooperation, and cosmopolitan hospitality to promote openness across borders. Structured like a treaty, with preliminary articles that prohibit the causes of war and definitive articles that establish the conditions for peace, the work blends moral idealism with political realism, leaving a lasting impact on modern visions of international law and global justice. In Religion Within the Boundaries of Mere Reason, Kant offers a rational reinterpretation of religion, reducing it to its moral core. He introduces the concept of radical evil as a deliberate choice to place self-interest above moral duty, which necessitates a rational change of heart rather than divine intervention. Christ, in this view, represents the ideal of moral perfection, not a supernatural being, and the ethical community functions as a human realization of the kingdom of ends. By aligning religious faith with moral autonomy, Kant challenges traditional theology, leading to censorship but deepening his ethical system. In his final, unfinished work, the Opus Posthumum, written in his 70s, Kant attempts to bridge metaphysics and natural science through the concept of the ether, a medium for physical forces, and a self-positing subject at the center of experience. Though fragmentary and speculative, it reflects his last ambitious effort to achieve a unified philosophical system, a synthesis left incomplete as his health declined. Kant's body of work traces a sweeping intellectual arc. His early pre-critical writings, such as Universal Natural History, The Only Possible Argument, and Observations on the Feeling of the Beautiful and Sublime, reflect an Enlightenment optimism, celebrating the expansive potential of reason. With the critical period, beginning with the critiques and continuing through the groundwork, Metaphysics of Morals, Perpetual Peace, and Religion Within the Boundaries of Mere Reason, Kant imposes limits on reason's reach, grounding knowledge, ethics, and society in the principle of autonomy. In his final, unfinished Opus Posthumum, he strives for a final synthesis of metaphysics and physics, a twilight attempt to unify his system. From cosmology to morality, Kant maintains a balance between intellectual rigor and a deep sense of wonder, dismantling old dogmas while constructing a framework in which human reason, finite but powerful, plays a central role in shaping our understanding and our world. His enduring legacy, epistemological humility, moral universality, and political hope testifies to a mind that never stopped questioning, refining, and reaching for the profound. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for more content on the philosophy series.